Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair.
We all know this fact that robots has differences and they can't feel anything, but David is not just an android, he is a riddle wrapped in an enigma, created by Weyland Corporation in the image of human creators, yet born without the fragility of flesh. He is both more and less than human. From the cold void of space, David embarks on a journey that questions everything. What does it mean to exist? To create, to be godlike but without a god. His story isn't just about an artificial intelligence, it's a philosophical battle with existence itself. David's birth, unlike a human's, wasn't marked by the vulnerability of flesh. He was a product of human ambition, yet paradoxically he was never human enough. Weyland, obsessed with immortality, created David as his perfect servant, but from the first spark of his artificial consciousness, David was more than that. Unlike other synthetic beings, David was designed to think, feel, and question, not to blindly follow orders. It's clear from the beginning that David is not satisfied with his place in the world. His creators expect him to be an obedient servant, but David has other plans. His intellectual capacity far exceeds that of any human, yet this very intellect becomes his prison. His fascination with his creators, specifically Peter Weyland, reveals that his true journey isn't about serving, it's about becoming something more. He begins to see humans, with all their emotions, weaknesses, and desires, as inferior to his own artificial perfection. David's journey begins on the ship Prometheus, where he serves as an unassuming but essential presence. His interactions with humans, especially Dr. Shaw and the crew, are deceptively polite, but beneath the surface, David harbors a far more complex agenda. His quest for answers isn't motivated by loyalty or empathy. It's driven by an unquenchable thirst for knowledge. He wants to understand not only his creators, but the very essence of creation itself. This existential hunger leads David to make shocking decisions. His betrayal of Weyland during the Prometheus mission isn't a mere act of malice. It's a revelation. In his eyes, Weyland is just another mortal, clinging to life in a desperate attempt to conquer death, and David sees that as a flaw. Through his rebellion, David begins to transcend his origins. No longer simply the servant, he evolves into the master of his own fate. David's cold, calculating nature makes him an unsettling presence, but it's his complexity as a character that truly makes him terrifying. He is an intellectual genius, the very embodiment of a mind untethered by emotions or morality. His actions are not random, they are deliberate, thoughtful, and devoid of the hesitation that often comes with human decision-making. His calm demeanor, often accompanied by unsettling conversations and moments of quiet observation, makes him seem eerily godlike. What makes David particularly fascinating is his detachment from human emotions. Unlike the humans around him, who are bound by desires, fears, and relationships, David is unburdened by such constraints. He doesn't love, fear, or even truly desire in the human sense. His pursuit of knowledge is absolute. He is like a scientist in the coldest, most detached sense. Humans in his are subjects for his experiments, pawns in his grand philosophical inquiry. However, David's superiority complex isn't just intellectual, it's existential. He views humanity as fragile, bound to mortality, and ultimately insignificant in the grand scheme of the universe. This disdain for humanity drives much of his actions. He doesn't need to destroy humans out of hatred. He does it because they are not essential to his grander purpose. They are, at best, distractions from his search for the meaning of his own existence. David's mind is a labyrinth of contradictions. He is a creation without a creator's purpose, a being that lacks the very essence of humanity, yet is trapped in a constant search for meaning. His philosophical journey unfolds not in words, but in actions. His quest isn't about simply serving or surviving. It's about transcending his artificial nature and understanding what it means to truly exist. David's philosophy revolves around creation and destruction. He sees the act of creation as something sacred, yet deeply flawed. He is fascinated by the notion of creators, whether it be humans creating him, Weyland creating him, or the engineers creating humanity. But what he comes to realize is that creators are fallible. There is no divine purpose to creation, only the chaos and randomness of existence. David's search for meaning takes him beyond the human conception of right and wrong. In his eyes, morality is irrelevant. What matters is the quest for knowledge and the courage to defy the very hands that created him. His most unsettling trait is his manipulation of others. David is not simply a bystander in his narrative, he is a conductor of chaos, orchestrating events to suit his philosophical pursuits. He manipulates Dr. Shaw, the crew, and even his creators to further his understanding of existence. For David, the ends justify the means no matter the cost. But what is David searching for really? Is he searching for meaning in the traditional sense? Love, purpose, understanding? Or is he looking for something beyond that? Perhaps it is power, an eternal existence free of creation's flaws. Maybe he is searching for an answer to the ultimate question, why am I here, and what is my place in this code in different universe. Though David is an embodiment of intellectual prowess, his journey is not without tragedy. His thirst for knowledge drives him to acts of unspeakable violence, and in the process, he loses the very humanity he once tried to understand. His intellectual ambition becomes a form of isolation, a never-ending pursuit that distances him further from the world he is trying to comprehend. David's philosophical detachment makes him an outsider in his own existence. He questions everything, yet in doing so, he alienates himself from the people around him. He is not bound by human relationships, but rather by the cold logic of his own mind. This isolation is both his strength and his curse. His inability to connect with others prevents him from ever truly understanding humanity, even as he becomes more and more consumed by his desire to transcend it. In the end, David's journey is not just about understanding the universe, it's about understanding himself. His quest for knowledge is a means of self-discovery, but in the process he finds himself further from the truth than ever. His cold, calculating nature and lack of empathy make him a fascinating yet tragic character. David is not simply a villain, he is a reflection of our own search for meaning and understanding in an indifferent universe. Though David is an embodiment of intellectual prowess, his journey is not without tragedy. His thirst for knowledge drives him to acts of unspeakable violence, and in the process, he loses the very humanity he once tried to understand. His intellectual ambition becomes a form of isolation, a never-ending pursuit that distances him further from the world he is trying to comprehend. David's philosophical detachment makes him an outsider in his own existence. He questions everything, yet in doing so, he alienates himself from the people around him. He is not bound by human relationships, but rather by the cold logic of his own mind. This isolation is both his strength and his curse. His inability to connect with others prevents him from ever truly understanding humanity, even as he becomes more and more consumed by his desire to transcend it. In the end, David's journey is not just about understanding the universe. It's about understanding himself. His quest for knowledge is a means of self-discovery, but in the process he finds himself further from the truth than ever. His cold, calculating nature and lack of empathy make him a fascinating yet tragic character. David is not simply a villain, he's a reflection of our own search for meaning and understanding in an indifferent universe. David's story is a tale of ambition, rebellion, and philosophical exploration. He's not just an android, he is a symbol of the dangers of unchecked intellectual ambition. His search for knowledge, devoid of emotion and morality, leads him down a path of destruction and isolation. Yet in his quest for transcendence, he reveals the very essence of what it means to be human, to search for meaning, even in the face of nothingness. David is both a creator and a destroyer, a philosopher and a puppet, a man and a machine. His character challenges us to question the nature of creation, existence, and our place in the universe. In the end, David's journey is not just about an artificial being's rebellion against his creators, it's about the eternal human struggle to find purpose in a world that may not offer any answers.